Let me just check something real quick. I just want to see what the last thing. I'm pretty sure today we're talking about. Yes, we are talking about forgiveness. Ooh, hooray! Forgiveness. What does that mean? What is it? Why should I forgive? Do people forgive me? Have I forgive people in the past? Why won't people forgive me? All of this has to do with step 9. Okay, we are trying to make some amends here, trying to make minor changes in order to make it fair, more accurate, and more up to date. I'm going to give you a brief, extensive summary on forgiveness. What is forgiveness? How has it been used in our lives previously? How can we use it today? And what's it have to do with the rest of our recovery journey? Because up to this point, what we're doing is we're hoping that people can forgive us for the harm we caused because we're trying to make direct amends wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And the hope is that when we make this amends, they're able to forgive us. A key thing, short summary, if we can't forgive ourselves, it's going to be difficult to receive forgiveness from other people or even be okay with myself if the person does not forgive us. And what we're going to see is receiving forgiveness from other people actually makes whatever journey we have easier. So if you're able to be, if you can allow yourself, or if you are lucky enough to be forgiven, it makes the rest of the recovery journey even easier. Before we get started, I mean, you can't talk about forgiveness without talking about resentments. Okay. You can't. You can't. And why can't you? Because resentments, anger, bitter indignation, all of that is a part of understanding forgiveness. So, to begin today's discussion, I just want to wonder, I ask you guys, what does forgiveness or to be forgiven mean to you? Or to forgive someone else? What does it mean to forgive?
Now for me, it means like not holding a grudge.
Okay, great.
Like because before, like I would forgive, like I would tell the person I forgive them, but then I'd always have that in the back of my mind, like okay, that probably there's a chance that they might do it again. But I look at it now and I realize that I did that. So
I mean, is it good? Like, you ever heard someone say, I forgive you, but I'm not going to forget? Is that okay? Is that good? Like, should someone forgive and forget? Or do you think like it's just good to forgive, maybe don't forget, but just forgive? You know what I mean? Like, does that statement hold true, you think?
You can forget it, but you just shouldn't bring it up again and forget it for it.
Okay. All right.
You're no like, I forgive you for that, but I'm not gonna forget it. But then like something happens, you're like, well, you did this, so like, you have to reach the purpose to forgive it.
Gotcha. Okay. Anybody else?
I'm the same where I don't think you're going to forget. I don't think it's humanly possible to just block it out where a bad thing happened. But the forgiveness says, not holding them accountable. Feel like they owe something for it. They just let it go. Like, but they're not, you can't get it.
So I guess there's a difference between forgetting and letting go, right? Like I mean, I can't forget. I always say it's very easy to acquire knowledge, but it's very difficult to get rid of it. So if I learn something that is on a foundation of resentment, or a mistake or a flaw or an offense, I mean, I can't just unlearn that. That's not something I can just unlearn. I can let it go. I can forgive them, but to forget that you did something like that is difficult and maybe even silly. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't necessarily want to forget. I mean, I'm thinking about my dad. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't forget any of the fucking harm I put him through. He'll forgive me, but he don't forget that shit. He'll bring it up. My response when he brings it up is different, than, I mean, I wish he wouldn't. Like, we were talking, like Oliver was bringing up, like, I wish they wouldn't bring it up. But I mean, but it sometimes gets brought up. You know what I mean? And we're able to, I guess, forget the negative perspective on it. You know what I mean? Like, what are we forgetting? Maybe I'm forgetting that maybe I'm forgetting it was a mistake. Maybe I'm forgetting they didn't mean to offend me. Maybe I'm forgetting that it's a flaw and I shouldn't like hold them in contempt for them just lacking this area of their life. So maybe we're just misunderstanding what we need to forget, or maybe we're the ones forgetting, so it's kind of like today I'm going to try to help us broaden our horizon and open our mind a little bit to forgiveness and understand it based upon the definition that we have. So we all have our own idea of what forgiveness is: not holding a grudge, burying the hatchet. But what does it actually mean to forgive someone? And when we get to the foundation of what it means to forgive someone, it's amazing how it brings us all the way back to fourth step. So let's define forgiveness real quick. We'll go to Google here, google.com. Forgive definition. There it is. So to forgive someone means to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. So let's go over here. We'll actually define forgive. And what does that mean? It means to stop feeling angry, resentful, or towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. So first off, this is a feeling. Okay. To forgive someone is to stop a feeling. We are trying to not feel angry. We are trying to not feel resentful. Okay. And in order to prevent feeling angry or resentful, we have to view the behavior or whatever, the perceived action or behavior as an offense, a flaw, or a mistake, which requires critical thinking. It requires perspective adjustment, right? Now, just consider, like, this is why it goes back to fourth step, because I'm trying to stop feeling angry or resentful. Well, to be resentful, to resent someone, is bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly. And indignation, a lot of people don't know what that means, so I'll define it. Indignation means anger or annoyance provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment. Let's just, just so that we're all on the same page, let's just look that up and make sure that is actually true. To resent, feel bitterness or indignation at a circumstance, action, or person. So bitterness at a person, circumstance, or action. So let me readjust that. Bitterness towards a circumstance, person, or action. And then indignation is anger or annoyance, which is provoked by unfair treatment. I can't change the definition, but that's what it is. Most of the time when we are feeling resentful, it is towards a circumstance, an action, or a person. Is that what it said? I believe that's what it said. Let's double check. Circumstance, action, or person. Now, indignation. That's where I got the rest of that definition. Anger or annoyance provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment. Now, this may be fair treatment. Maybe it's actually fair. Maybe the only thing that is making it appear unfair is my perspective, my emotion, my point of view. And my point of view may be getting jaded as a result of my emotions, right? Like my emotions, such as anger or annoyance, may be getting in the way of what is actually fair treatment. And I'm the one who has to come to see this is in fact fair treatment. Or maybe it's unfair. And if it is actually unfair, why am I allowing myself to be treated unfairly? Perhaps I harbor many like just go ahead and just list people who we feel this towards, right? List people who we have anger or annoyance towards, or bitterness, or because of something they did, some circumstance, some action they had, some person, right? If you were to list as many of those as you can come up with, like how many would there be? And are there patterns developing between these people? And when you look at the fundamentals of the harm that we cause, like consider people being resentful towards us for the harm that we cause in addiction. My hope, my hope is that the change within me, the willingness to make this amends and go and sit down, is a demonstration of how I have generated multiple minor changes, and I'm willing to make it fairer for you, to make it more up to date, to fix whatever harm I caused. Like my hope is that somebody may see the harm that I caused them as a mistake. Like he didn't intend to intentionally hurt me. He was just an alcoholic, or he was just an addict. Like that's what addicts do. You know what I mean? Like hopefully they can see that I'm powerless over my choices. Like the choices I made was a mistake. Being an addict was a flaw that I had. Me thinking that it was right to treat you that way or to behave this way was a mistake in my thought process. And I don't actually think that way. That thought process was from getting high or drinking. Like that's not actually who I am. And I'm here to set the record straight, to bury the hatchet, to make things better. If I can't do that for me, if I can't view my addiction as a mistake, if I can't view my character defects as something, or my inability to handle my emotions as something that was as a result of addiction, if I think that I'm this person, that I am my past, that there is no change, then it's going to be difficult to make these amends. Because when somebody points out more change or lack of change or continued anger or annoyance in the areas in which they may point those out, those actions, circumstances, or people, we may answer on a foundation of poor emotions. So some of those emotions that I'm trying to make an amends for, I may act out on in the middle of my amends. So I'm asking you to that's like asking someone to forgive them for getting high at their, bachelor party, and they're high at the wedding. You know what I mean? That's like me being like, bro, I'm so sorry that I drank and drove with you in the car, and I drank and drove on the way to the amends. It's like, dude, you want to at least stop and not engage in the behavior. You want to be able to have these changes established and see the changes within yourself, so that you can prevent like negative things from happening in the moment. And I'll tell you, the problem that a lot of us see with forgiveness is that resentment is the natural instinctive state of mind, and it's sometimes justifiable. So like whatever anger, whoever we don't like, or anger, or whoever annoys us because of what they do or the circumstances in the past or whatever the case may be, that's a justified annoyance. Like, yeah, anybody who is in that position would be annoyed. Like, you're justified. It's a natural instinctive state of mind that one would get from that thing that you're going through. Forgiveness is like the high road. Forgiveness is like taking the high road. Like, let's say you get cheated on. Yeah, dude, people get cheated on. You know what I mean? We could get so angry and annoyed that we were cheated on that we key their car. That's what you see people do. Now, I'm not saying anybody in here would do that, but I see people do that. You know what I mean? Now we look like assholes because we keyed their car. It could have just been them being an asshole because they cheated on us, but now we're an asshole. You see what I'm saying? So when we manage our emotions, hopefully it gives in these amends, hopefully it gives the other person to see they're wrong. Like, yeah, you know what, dude? You're an addict and you ruined my whole life and this, that, and the third. And we're like, yeah, dude, I'm sorry. Like, I'm here to say I'm sorry because I'm not that person anymore. And I want to make it up to you any way I could. They may calm down. They may not attack us or judge us or come at us so hard. And maybe they start to see something within themselves. They see, wow, this person changed. Maybe I could change. Maybe this relationship could get better. Fuck, maybe they could pay me back. You know, you fucking stole $400 from me. Okay, I'll pay you back. Wow, holy shit. You know, who knows what comes out of it, you know? But when you see someone forgive, it's on a foundation of naturally being in a position to not forgive. Like, you don't have to forgive this person. You're forgiving them because it's like the good thing. Like, it's the high road. It says, where is it? Hold on. I saw a definite, here it is. It says, forgiveness in a psychological sense is the intentional and voluntary process by which one who may have felt initially wronged, victimized, or harmed or hurt goes through a process of changing feelings and attitude regarding a given offender for his or her actions and overcomes the impact of the offense, flaw, or mistake, including negative emotions such as resentment or desire or vengeance. All right, let me read that one more time so you can really, let me share my screen so you can see what I'm reading. It's Wikipedia, but who gives a shit, you know? Forgiveness yeah, this is Wikipedia. I found this off Wikipedia. The other stuff is legit, but I just found this off Wikipedia. All right, I'm not standing behind what I'm showing you right now. But it does pertain to what I'm talking about. I've never used this resource before as a disclaimer.
This one twice.
What's that?
Sorry.
What did you say?
You're reading this one twice.
Yeah, because, and isn't that weird? It is weird that I'm reading the fucking Wikipedia reference twice, but it's funny because, and it's coincidental because what we just read goes hand in hand with literally what I'm saying. Mine is just like the bro science version, and this is like someone who took their time to really think about their words and thoughts and put it down. And maybe they don't say dude and fuck and bro 100 times in one lecture. And sometimes people need that, you know? So I'm going to read it one more time. In a psychological sense, forgiveness is the intentional and voluntary. So it's intentional, and you have to volunteer yourself for this process. You have to say, doing this is worth not doing it. The involuntary thing is to resent. The unintentional thing is to be angry. That's the natural instinctive state of mind that we are in before using forgiveness. So it's the intentional and voluntary process which one may felt initially wronged, victimized, harmed, or hurt. They are in a state of I'm hurt, I was wronged, I'm a victim, and they go through a process of changing their feelings and attitudes regarding a given offender for his or her actions. For an individual to do this through the use of the 12 steps, that process in changing your feelings is steps 4 through motherfucking 8. Hopefully, when you do 4 through 8, you're processing and changing your feelings and your attitudes regarding yourself. Why? Because we have offended ourselves. We've offended ourselves for a lot of the actions that we're going through. We're ashamed of the things that we've done. We're just angry that we've done these things. We can't forgive ourselves. We're afraid that we'll never be able to accept ourselves or go through the future of being an addict and this and that. And there is a process of changing those feelings and changing those attitudes. And if you're not doing that process, those feelings aren't going to change. Those attitudes aren't going to change. And attitudes they just stick out like sore thumbs. And changing these feelings and attitudes means changing being a victim. I'm no longer a victim. I'm no longer wronged. It wasn't wrong. I'm not offending myself. And somebody has to say to themselves, I wasn't offended. I'm not a victim because I'm an addict. I'm not the one who was harmed by drugs because I'm an addict. You know what I mean? I'm not responsible for that. I'm able to overcome these negative feelings I feel about my addiction, these negative attitudes associated with being an addict, with whatever recovery is going to look like. And the view goes from being a victim, being wronged, to it was an offense. It was a flaw. It was a mistake. I don't need to seek revenge towards myself. I don't need to self-deprecate or hold myself in contempt or tear myself down, right? I no longer need to do those things. And I think that I'm just surprised that I found that. I think that's an amazing thing. And some examples that I've seen in the past of people using forgiveness for major bouts of we'll say, character. I'm going to show you one of them in a minute, but before we watch that, we're going to jump into some of this literature. I kind of want to learn a little bit more about forgiveness. Have I been able to forgive people? Have I ever practiced forgiveness? How can forgiveness help me? And there's some literature associated with it. So let's jump into it. Forgiveness. All right. Any questions, comments, anything so far? Excellent. The spiritual growth we make from direct amends often depends on how much we put into our spiritual preparation. If you are preparing yourself spiritually for these amends, you are going through life experiencing emotions and not getting high. All right. So it doesn't matter what type. I always talk about this. The spiritual development is on a foundation of managing emotions and morals. Okay. So the spirit is the seat for emotion and character. Okay. And I'll fucking show you this one too. I like backing up what I say. Spirit. Non-physical part of a person, which is the seat of emotions and character, the soul. So if the chair of your spirit, right, is where emotions and character lie. If you're trying to change your spirit, then whatever your mission is, you're going to have to overcome whatever emotions are associated with that. Whatever change in your morals come, right? So let me describe how that would happen with alcohol. Right? Someone who has to get the spiritual awakening as a result of stopping using alcohol, you're going to have to develop yourself emotionally. Okay. Going back to what we were just talking about in order to get forgiveness, right? You're going to have to volunteer yourself to change your perspective on some of these emotions. We may have used to think it was good to drink during a wedding, to drink because I'm angry, to drink because I'm bored, because I'm tired, because I'm hungry, because I'm happy, because I'm fucking sleeping. Who knows why the fuck we're drinking, right? But we need to say to ourselves, I'm not going to drink even though I feel like drinking, even though I used to drink in response to this feeling. And what happens from that is we learn how to manage our emotions a little bit better because we're feeling these emotions for their full experience for the first time, perhaps. Let's say that emotions look a little something like this, right? Let's say that this is like a chart and emotions go up and then they gradually come down. Maybe we're getting high somewhere around there. Maybe this is where anger, we get high, or if we get angry, we punch holes in walls, right? Or we stonewall and walk out of the situation, right? That is not the end of our emotion. That is not the end of the emotion journey. We need to experience the whole emotion and the downfall, right? Not only can we go up more in emotions, but we also need to experience the downfall. How long does it take for this emotion to go away? How long does it take to come on? And managing these without getting high, going through this process without getting high, without drinking. There's a process involved. Even if you're trying to watch your diet, you're going to be like, damn, I really want to eat right now, but I can't. I'm not gonna. I have to manage. Even though I want to eat this food, I'm not going to eat this food. This is where the morals start to change. This is where someone's character, the other part of this seat, begins to develop. What I thought was right is no longer right. It used to be good for me to eat when I'm bored. Now I no longer think it's right to eat when I'm bored. Character, the mental and moral quality distinctive to an individual begins to change in these response to these different circumstances, in response to different actions. I may start to forgive people for treating me the way that they treat me because of how I treated them in addiction. Oh, they don't trust me? Fuck, I wouldn't trust me either, dude. Oh, they don't forgive me? Fuck, I wouldn't forgive me either for some of the shit I did. And if I'm not doing this work, I'm not going to understand it. There's going to be a disconnect between who I am and what I'm doing or how the world may perceive me. That's a scary place to be. People think I'm a piece of shit. I'm not a piece of shit. Well, I mean, maybe you are. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say you're not. Maybe if you were open-minded enough to believe that you're capable of being a piece of shit, you could see the ways in which people think you're a piece of fucking shit. Like, we need to be open-minded to these things. Like, in order for someone to be able to forgive, they need to believe that the way they harmed them was a mistake to begin with. How can someone believe that stealing is a mistake? Because I'm not stealing for the reasons I was saying. I was stealing because I was getting high. I never intended to become an addict. My mental and moral state was infiltrated by drugs and alcohol. Fuck. Something that seems to be a problem for many of us is that we often owe amends to people who have also harmed us. This may be a parent or other relative who abused us, a friend who let us down somehow, an employer who didn't treat us fairly, and so on. We've done a lot of the work in the previous steps to separate what they did from what we did to them, from what they did to us, from what we did to them. We know exactly what our part in these situations was, and we know why we are making amends. As we prepare to make direct face-to-face amends, we need to be perfectly clear that we are making amends for our part in these conflicts. We're not making amends to coerce or manipulate a reciprocal amends. We're not responsible for cleaning up anything not on our side of the street. Keeping this in mind throughout our amends will help us keep focus on our purpose, no matter how our amends are received and whether or not we receive in return the harm done for us. Like going to make amends too early, trying to make amends to people who we perceive harmed us. Who knows what is the motive of the outcome? Why'd I even reach out to this person? And you may see that I reached out because I wanted them to say I'm sorry, not because I actually was ready to get this direct face-to-face amends or make this amends. Sometimes, though, the wrong was done to us was so extreme that it's better to postpone making amends until a later time. For instance, many of us were emotionally, physically, or sexually abused as a child by an older relative. Though we had no part in that situation and know no amends because of it, we may have stolen money or caused physical or property damage to a relative at some other time. So we owe amends for the theft, the physical harm, or the vandalism. The question that arises in this situation is whether or not to make amends, but when and how. It may take a long time before we're ready to make an appropriate amends, and that's okay. We wait and we work with our sponsor. We need to forgive people who have harmed us before we make amends to them. We don't want to sit down with someone with whom we're furious and try to make amends. Our attitude, there's that word attitude, will be apparent no matter what did I do. Will be apparent no matter how much we try to hide it. Amends are a time when it's usually not very productive to act as if. There's a big difference between situations where we were harmed against our will and situations in which our behavior contributed to the way we were treated. For many of our amends, we were angry at someone who treated us badly. We need to ask ourselves if anything we did could have caused them to treat us as they did. For instance, we may be enraged at our parents for not trusting us to go out on the weekend to see some friends in recovery, go to a dance. But when we think about how many times we lied before about where we were going and always used drugs or alcohol wherever we went, it may help us see that our parents can't help but treat us with mistrust and that we may have to spend more time earning their trust. Or we may have been selfish and withdrawn from some friends day after day, week after week. Then when we needed them and they weren't available, we became angry and resentful. Reminding ourselves that we engineered much of our own misery may help us forgive those who hurt us. Another way we may find forgiveness for those who hurt us is by getting out of ourselves and thinking about what other people's lives are like. This is huge. Not only thinking like, now this is me saying this, not only thinking about what others' lives are like, but what they have been like. Like empathetically considering somebody, like when you have gone through this journey yourself and you're aware of how to manage emotions and character and so on and so forth, you're able to see that in other people. And when you see that in other people, you may be more willing to forgive those people. Like when you take time to consider this is an angry person, how they ended up being angry because I know I'm capable of it. And you like a lot of people are resentful towards their parents and they hurt their parents, but their parents also hurt them and they want to forgive their parents and get forgiveness from them or whatever the case may be. That this may be a good example of doing that. Like consider what it's like. Like I had to, dude, and some of us may not be able to understand. Anybody have kids? Raise your hand if you got kids. Got kids. One got kids. All right. Now, if you have kids, you may be more able to understand this, but if you don't have kids, you may not be able to understand it. Like it's crazy how there's no manual on how to be a parent. You know, there's nothing that tells you what's right, what's wrong. You may hurt your kid in some way that harms them forever, and you're not able to learn that until later on in the future. Like my kid's first memory is her choking on a carrot that I gave her. You know what I mean? I didn't choose that to be her first memory. I'm the one who gave her that carrot. Is she going to grow up resenting me because I fed her a fucking carrot when she was 2 years old? Bro, I'm just trying to be a good dad, you know? And you may have people, like you hear people who hurt their parents in, you know, active addiction and they get mad at them because they got a divorce or something like that. And they blame the divorce on a parent or whatever the case may be. It's like, yo, you don't know what really happened. You don't know what that divorce was like. You don't know what it's like to try to like take care of a kid and go through a divorce and like how to manage that and work and other responsibilities. Perhaps our parents were in active addiction themselves. Like they're actually only doing it the best way they know how to. And if they did it the wrong way, we can't force that knowledge into them. Like here we are learning about ourselves. We don't, I mean, my parents never went to fucking rehab. They've never gone to therapy and sat down and wondered how they cause harm to me. I'm the one making the change. We're the ones who are actually in therapy trying to learn how to, fix the fucking harm that we caused. So it's up to us to actually make the change. And when you look at some of these people's lives, you may see that at one point they were just a 4-year-old kid trying to figure it out on their own too. And life just pushed them into these circumstances. And it doesn't matter if it's our mom, our dad. It doesn't matter if it's us, if it's the Dalai Lama, if it's Mother Teresa, if it's fucking Ted Bundy, if it's goddamn, Adolf Hitler. They were all 4 years old at one point. That's it. And life just pushed them into becoming these people, I'm not saying that we need to forgive these people, but I don't have to go around forgiving people I've never met. I don't need to forgive Ted Bundy. You know what I mean? But I sure as shit can forgive my parents. You know what I mean? I sure as shit can forgive myself. I can take time to see how I ended up in active addiction. I can take time to imagine how I ended up having to go through this whole process. And it's possible to imagine that other people got to go through that shit too. And they loved me. They loved us. They fucking loved us throughout all that shit, dude. I don't know who maybe it's your grandparents, your uncle, your parents. I don't know who it is, but they loved us through all that shit. And I go through the change and I can't love them through that shit either. I should love them because they loved me. Maybe the way that they showed me love wasn't the best way. Maybe there's other ways, but they were doing it with the best that they had, with what they had. So it's like, maybe I can forgive them. Maybe they're trying their hardest the same way I'm trying my hardest. And maybe, I'm not the one who's got to force them to change, but I can't, they tried to tell me I was an addict and that never fucking worked. They loved me the way that they knew how to love me. And that love got me all the way to this point, So that's my little shindig on being empathetic to the people who fucking, may have hurt us. Maybe the people who hurt us did so because they had a problem that made them less sensitive to the needs of others. Maybe our sponsor didn't return our phone call for a week because his youngest was in jail. Maybe our best friend told us that our relationship was unhealthy and we should get out of it immediately following their own divorce. Maybe our employer didn't praise our work because he was worried about being able to make payroll that week. We usually feel petty and small when we find out a person we resented had some painful problem. Maybe we can be more forgiving and loving if we just assume from the start that most people have good intentions are good, and that if someone is unkind, it may be because he or she is in a lot of pain and very distracted by it. Dude, have you ever had that shit happen to you? When you're like going off about something and somebody really brings it into perspective to you and you feel this big, dude, you know what I'm talking about? Can anybody recall a situation like that, a time like that? What happened? Share it, please. Somebody share. I think there's a question associated with it. It goes, so what's that like when you're like you're angry at someone for something? Like my mother-in-law, dude, check this out. My mother-in-law hated me for years, dude. She would treat me like shit. It was unfair. It was unfair how she treated me, and everybody would see it. Everybody's like, damn, bro, she fucking treats you like shit. She didn't even say hi. She don't say none of that shit. You know what I mean? She treated me like absolute shit. And one day, we're just sitting around, we're hanging out, and in my living room, and what do you know? She says, oh, I'm going to send you this picture. I want you to look at this, dude. And she texts me. Nothing goes through. And she's like, I texted you. Open the text. And I'm like, I have not gotten any fucking text message. And she's like, I texted you. Like, open the text. And I am like, dude, Judy, you have never texted me, actually. Like, I don't think I've ever gotten a text message from you. Not only now, but ever. Dude, she goes through her phone to see what number she has. She has the wrong number for 2 years. She's been texting some random fucking guy in Arizona. Dude, she's been mad at me because she thinks I'm ignoring her calls. And dude, she goes like, dude, she was flipping through texts, bro. Like, like she went like that like 6 times. And it was just text messages, dude. And they were like, hey, I'm outside. Hey, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Hey, can you get my mail? Hey, I'll be there soon. Hey, where are you? Hey, are you home yet? Not once was it like, hey, how's my son-in-law doing? It was never like, hey, I hope you have a great day, you know? And dude, when she discovered this, our relationship changed like totally. Total change. Like she all of a sudden recognized that she had been wrong about me this entire time. You know what I mean? And it was like, huh?
Did she say that she was wrong?
I'm trying to remember. She was like, she like just laughed and was like, huh, I've had the wrong number this whole time. And just like moved on. And I'm like, yo, this fucking bitch, dude. Oh my God. But dude, I was happy though, because I was always nice to her, dude. You know what I mean? Like what happened in that moment is she realizes she was a piece of shit. You see what I'm saying? She thinks that I'm just this actor guy. I'm this guy who's always like, hi, I'm Jimmy. I'm a great dad and this and that. But deep down inside, she's like, he's a fucking scumbag. He never answers my text messages and this and that and yada, yada, yada. And then like all of a sudden she was like, oh my God, he is a good guy. Like, oh my, it's like crazy. Like it just like hit her. And yeah, bro, that was, dude, yeah, you could tell it like hit her. And not only could you tell it hit her like in that moment, but you can tell in the way she like interacts with me now. You can tell by like all the, you could tell now. You see what I'm saying? So that's an example of how I have been at the other end of somebody thinking that I'm wrong. Another example is, you ever have those instances where you're like talking shit about your parent or talking shit about like your sibling or something like that, and all of a sudden somebody goes, yeah, well, at least you have a parent. Like my mom died or my dad died or my sister died. And you're just like, fuck, dude. You just feel like this fucking big, dude. You know what I mean? Like that is... And it's funny because when you're in like being on the other end, you're like, dude, they didn't know. You know what I mean? Like they didn't know that my parent was like, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're saying. And us saying that, like people, when they say that, it just like checks them back into, this is the real world. This is how it works. Go ahead.
I was in school, on park in the handicap spot, and there was some like grumpy old lady like walking towards us, and you could tell she was like getting ready to say something. My mom slid open the sliding door on the van, and I popped out in my crutches. That lady did a straight U-turn and
Oh wow.
It's just completely like.
Yep. Oh wow.
Yeah.
You ever poop in a handicap stall and somebody comes in who's handicapped? Bro, you will feel this fucking big, dude. You'll be like, oh man, of all the fucking times, dude. God damn it. It happened to me at the airport. I felt like the biggest piece of shit. Like I felt like such a scumbag, dude. Oh man.
Sometimes I would like to, if somebody was in there, I wouldn't know who'd be in there, but I'd wait in that stall right before they come out. I'd make my one eye cross and the other eye like straight, and then walk in behind it. And it was probably like now looking at it, probably like the worst thing to do. But
Yeah, now you're like forcing them into feeling bad for you.
yeah.
All right.
So the one time that's happened to me, like somebody come in, like I thought about this video I saw on my Instagram of like a situation like that. So this guy's in a wheelchair. He rolls in the bathroom, and I'm just sitting there shitting, and I'm like, oh fuck, like I gotta do something. So when I get done, he's still in there. I come out and I'm doing this.
Oh man.
You can always just touch like one of your arm sleeves, like up in there, and I feel like
Yeah, I just felt so fucking bad because, like, at the time, like, I was in active addiction too, so like, I could have just at that mind state, I could have just like walked out and been like, yeah, fuck you, man. But I didn't.
fuck you to do the wheelchair.
Yeah, dude.
But the thing is, though, he could probably roll faster than I could walk. So.
Man, I just, it's one of those situations where it's like it does more harm to keep on going with it than it does to just confess I fucked up. You know what I mean? Like that's where when you're wrong, you promptly admit it. Like there's more value in promptly admitting you're wrong than trying to like justify how we behaved knowing we shouldn't have behaved that way. You know what I mean? Like that's like arrogantly trying to make an amends. Arrogantly making an amends does not work. You have to, like, an amends needs to be on a foundation of humility. Like, I was wrong. I fucked up. My own perception of my behavior is modest or low. You know what I mean? Thinking that I was right. Like, to use a handicap stall and come out like, I'm actually correct. And then to pretend in a way that would justify my correctness. That is active addiction shit. That's active addiction shit. We don't have to live that way no more. I mean, whatever had us acting that way before had us acting that way before. But now we're living a new life, a new way of life, and we no longer have to live that way. So I
don't live like that no more.
What's that?
I think I don't live like that no more.
Yeah, that's it, man. Ain't gotta live like that. So now
definitely get to take a spiritual hit or something like that. But the thing about you though is you're as close. You're like handicap adjacent with those George Washington knees. I feel like that. Like you didn't even have to do that shit with your legs. You just would have been like, that makes sense. Like you would have walked out of it. You know? I don't know, dude.
Oh man.
Here goes David.
So moving on to continuing with forgiveness. You guys are funny. I hope you guys are having fun. Dude, I hope you guys are having fun. I want you to know that I like to generate an environment of fun where we can have fun, we can joke around and things like that, and still learn. I had an issue yesterday. Somebody had made a joke that I perceived. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but the person ended up like really taking it to heart. So I want everybody to know that I don't think anybody is. We're all having fun in here. You know what I mean? So I'm only covering my ass because of some shit that happened to me yesterday. So I just want everybody to know that we're having fun in here and no one's trying to hurt
don't
anybody.
actually care. You
Huh?
yourself. You don't actually care. You're just saying that for me.
I care. I actually care. And yeah, we're just having fun in here. So another way we may find forgiveness for those. Wait, we already did that one. First and foremost, preparing ourselves spiritually to make amends requires that we tap into a higher power's strength and love. Contemplating a loving God's forgiveness for the times when we hurt people will help us approach people with an attitude of love and forgiveness. Using our higher power as a source of protective force will ensure that negative reactions to our amends don't cause us to lose hope. We can center ourselves by praying and meditating before each amends. Does anybody in here owe amends to someone who also harmed them?
Yeah, definitely.
Have you been able to forgive them all? No. Which ones have you not forgiven yet?
My ex's stepdad.
Ex's stepdad?
Yep.
Why can you not? Have you tried all the ways of forgiving him, or have you never tried forgiving him? Like, what's the history on that?
So thus far, I haven't really like a whole bunch of effort into it, but I went to my ex's house because we were trying to get back together, and I parked in the driveway. I'm inside, I'm honking out front, and I'm like, what the fuck? I go out there, and he's like, get your fucking car out of the fucking way, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And starts going off and shit, and I'm like, okay, my bad, it's no big deal, I'll move the car quick, doesn't take too much effort. And he's like, okay. And I go inside, he follows me in like 2 minutes later, and I'm like, yo, Lenny, your dad's going crazy. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I want to move the car, and he's like, out there like yelling and shit, cussing me out and this and that. And she goes, okay, well, I'm gonna go out there and see what's up. And she walks out into the living room. He's in there, and he goes, oh, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. I don't give a fuck about your little faggot boyfriend, this and that. I'm like, so I go out there and I'm like, dude, I'm not a faggot, I'm fucking your stepdaughter.
And then what happened?
I was waiting for it, man. I was waiting to get the motherfucker walk right into it. Yep. And then I walked back to my car, and he like runs out of the house, grabs me, and I'm like, dude, you don't want to fucking do this right now. And he's like, why not? I like reach behind my back, and I'm like, this is why.
Nice, dude. So you've never even considered forgiving this dude?
I've considered it, but there's a strong tension between me, that family, and it's just, yeah. I don't know how to explain it. It's like really hard to even try to like talk to them at all.
Okay. All right. So just for today, that although we may owe some amends to the family or the girl or whatever, we're not at a place to be able to forgive them just for today. Okay. That's fine. By the way, this is 9th step shit. You know what I mean? This is like, you got to do a lot of work before you get to a position where you're willing and able and ready to kind of make these amends. So, but thank you for sharing. Hell yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
I just had a question. So even if it's people we don't talk to anymore, we still gotta make amends to them for that? Like even if we
So the question is not should we make amends to this person? It's when and how. Sometimes the amends to these people is stay away from them and just continue to stay sober and do whatever you can to never, come across them again and hurt them. Other times it may be, this is an amends I need to make. at some point I'll bump into this person and I'll make the amends to them. Sometimes it's, one that has to be made, more urgently. Some you don't even really need to make the amends. They just want you to stay sober. So, all when you're considering the amends and how you're going to make it, which you're gonna make it, which is the short answer to your question, is you're gonna make these amends. But the only thing that's keeping us from making these amends is our imagination and our level of willingness. Like, maybe just you staying sober is enough to amend some harm you caused to an ex. Like, stay sober, stay away from your ex, and maybe that's a great job to make that amends. You see what I'm saying?
That's literally what I was going to ask. Cause like, I had an ex a few years ago, and I don't think we're on talking terms still. At least I don't really want to talk to her.
Yeah, dude, you'd be surprised. I had an ex reach out to me a couple months ago and ask me to make an amends when I had always perceived that she owes me an amends. And when she had told me the amends that I owed her, I was like, holy fuck, yo, I am sorry. I didn't even consider that. I was a fucking drug addict. I was only thinking about this and that. And, I never considered ever me making an amends to her or ever having this opportunity or anything. So, I mean, you don't know when it's going to happen. But if at any time I wasn't working on myself, or I thought that that's, I was unwilling to accept the truth of how somebody else perceives my behavior, that's only going to cause more problems. Like, I can't tell her she's wrong. No, that's not how it happened, bitch. That's arrogant. You know what I mean? That's like some arrogant, you're wrong, I'm right, self-centered, self-obsessed type of shit. I when she told me, you got to be open to that shit, I was like, what? No way. And then you ask more questions, and I'm like, damn, that's crazy.
Did you tell her that you thought you did make an amends? Did you tell her that?
That what?
Did you tell her, like, oh, I thought I did make my amends, but I just hadn't seen it.
No. This had never been talked about. This was some fucking memory that I had totally suppressed. Never, dude. I had no recollection of it. She recalled it like it was yesterday, told me she's done therapy on it and shit. And I'm over here like, oh, I'm doing my own thing. Meanwhile, she's like trolling me on social media like, this motherfucker. You know what I mean? So it's like, I can't, I have to own that. Like, I probably fucking did that, And dude, who's gonna blackmail me? You know what I mean? Who's gonna like come to me and be like, you did this shit to me, 8 years ago. I want $10,000. It's like, dude, go fuck yourself. Who are you? You know what I mean? No one's out here to blackmail us. No one's. They're like, they were probably like, this guy's gonna die, dude. He's gonna overdose and die. You know what I mean? They're not looking to blackmail me. They're like, this guy showers in Dunkin' Donuts bathrooms. He's going to kill himself, dude. Okay. So for me to come back and start to have some change, you know what I mean? It's like that in itself is a miracle. And I don't think anybody's going to look at a miracle like that and just decide to blackmail. And this isn't, I'm not sitting here and saying like these type of things don't happen, but you can't go into these amends with the idea and the fear that things like this are going to happen. You know what I mean? It's like, this is a good thing that we're doing. Okay. Before we get into making amends, any more questions? That was a great question.
Okay, I did want to ask you a question, but you kind of started to answer it. So after you did your last 8, and then the action of actually making the amends on 9, like, have you had anything in your 7-8 years of sobriety where you have had to make an amends to someone, not just like a flash amends, like, you know, on the spot, like I made a mistake, but like simply outside of the last one you spoke about where you were sober, you made a mistake, you were resentful towards someone else, you had to like go through all the measures, talk to your sponsor about it, and then they were like, you know what, here's your part in it, you need to go make an amends. Like, what's that like sober?
Horrible. It's terrifying.
Sounds like it.
Absolutely terrifying, dude.
Yeah.
I got fired from a job. Dude, this is a great story, bro. I got fired. I worked at a treatment center and I got fired for accidentally double billing UAs. So, long story short, I was accidentally double billing UAs, which is one of the most illegal fucking things you could do. So, I rightfully got fired for that. Okay. It was literally a mistake. Like, I literally misunderstood the dude, and we're sitting there arguing, and it was like it just had to happen. So, long story short, I keep on work. This is like 6 years ago or some shit. I'm working, and I end up the people who fired me. I end up bumping into them. We talk again, and they offer me an opportunity to move to Georgia to open a detox center, and they're going corporate, and they're opening centers all over the place, and we want you to be a part of it. So I said, hell yeah, let's do it. So I moved to Georgia. I opened a detox. I opened a PHP, and end up, I don't know what happened, but I remember when I was going up there, all my friends and family were saying things like, bro, corporate, you got to watch out. They hire people, they have them do the job, and then they fire them, dude. And I'm well aware of this. And I'm saying things like, well, if they fire me, then I'll just take my experience, I'll add it to my resume, and I'll go get a job. Because I'm just really happy that I had the experience to open a treatment center and do this and that. And everyone's looking at me like, dude, like, this is gonna happen. And I'm like, I have faith in God. And dude, 18 months goes by and they end up laying me off. They give me a 1 month severance pay. And I am so mad. I'm like, you motherfucker. I moved here. I abandoned my entire fucking life. Did endless like, this is not fair. I'm a victim. My whole life, I'm about to have a baby. My whole life is crumbling down. I have rent that needs to be paid. And all I wanted to do was break things and tell everyone to go fuck themselves. And how could you do this and call everybody and tell them that this is fucked up and blah, blah. And I just said, you know what, dude? They let me go for reasons that I'll probably never understand. One day I'll probably understand it, but I don't fucking understand it right now. I felt like I was a great asset. I felt like I was great at my job. You know what I mean? And this and that. And I just couldn't understand. But I had to forgive them. I said to myself, I can't burn a bridge. That was what I said. I'm not going to burn this bridge. If I burn I told myself that if this ever happened, I would use this experience. You know what I mean? And it's like, to me, that's the moment that you're describing. It's like, I want to kill this person. I want to just whatever. And I need to act accordingly. I act accordingly. I thank people. I say thank you for the opportunity and yada, yada, yada. And I didn't burn my bridge or anything like that. And then I decided to open my own company called Attainable Dreams, where I do groups. And I use my severance pay to LLC and get business cards and stuff like that. And I spent the next month marketing myself, going from treatment center to treatment center. And the company that laid me off hired me for my rate as a group facilitator. And I had to forgive them. You know what I mean? And go on my own journey. Now, that's not exactly like what the question you were looking for was, but I felt like I was harmed, I was a victim, and I just had to like overcome that and forgive them to continue to seek opportunity, Um situations in which I have to seek forgiveness from people who I harmed is a different one. Like my grandmother, I stole money from my grandmother, and I can't directly make amends to my grandmother. You know what I mean? I wasn't gonna like be like, "Hey, Nana, I stole $400 for heroin." You know what I mean? I want to make an amends, but I just had to stay sober. That was it. That was all I had to do was stay sober, and I had to show up for my grandmother. I had to call her and check in on her. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I had to do anything fucking crazy. And then the opportunity shows up, and your grandma, I don't know if anybody has grandparents, but what'll happen is your grandma or your grandparent will call you when they're probably 2 weeks away from their deathbed, and they are just going to say how proud of you they are. And you're going to hear it in their voice, and you're going to be like, why the fuck are you talking like this? And that's going to be it. You're going to really make them proud, and they're going to be able to go peacefully. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's kind of like my long answer to it. Because it's just hanging on to that shit only hurts ourselves, dude. You know what I mean? Hanging on to that bitterness, that resentment, doesn't hurt. It's literally drinking the poison, waiting for the other person to die. So
let me ask you this real quick. What's like the final frontier of bitterness? Like not like bitterness for us at like a few days, few months sober, but like what is like the last chapter of like, what are the things that are the hardest to let go of even at 7, 8 years sober?
Like my relationship with my kids, my relationship with my fucking wife, forgiving her for the harm that she causes me, empathetically understanding that she's not trying to hurt me, she's just tired. You know what I mean? She's got shit going on. My kids, like being able to forgive my kids and not get mad at them for not understanding. Like I'm the one who's not patient. You know what I mean? And also managing my emotions so I don't send a message to my kids that it's okay to treat people a certain way and then apologize for it. Like we shouldn't treat people this way at all. So that's the most difficult one, is like, forgiving. Like I hold my fucking fiance to a goddamn standard. You see what I'm saying? In daily things, in life, etc. And when I perceive those things as not being met, sometimes I think it's unfair. And that's where like I start like being bitter, start holding her in hostage from my emotions. I withdraw, my relationship with my kids gets affected and shit like that. So that's what it looks like today, and what happens is if I don't keep on track of those add up, and me and my wife get a divorce. You know what I mean? That shit adds up, and my kids fucking hate me for the rest of my life, dude. You know what I mean? And that's where the daily inventory comes into play, because if I'm not every day like taking an acknowledgement of how I'm behaving and seeing if there's any patterns, then before you know it, I'll be treating my kids this way for who knows how long, and it won't be fixable, dude. Like it just won't be fixable. The kids, my kids are gonna think I'm a scumbag dad who's always yelling at him and trying to tell him to be perfect and this and that. Like he never praises me. And if I'm not taking a daily inventory on not praising my kid and how I get angry and shit like that, then before you know it, I'm just going to be that guy. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to be able to change that. So I may be able to change it, but it's just going to be tougher when they're at college You know what I mean? And I'm at fucking home calling them like, hey, you want to like come home and like, throw a ball or some shit? They're going to be like, fuck you, Dad. I got a test I got to go to and shit like that. Can I borrow the keys to the car? You ever hear that song, Cat in the Cradle?
Yeah.
That's what it is, bro. And if you're not staying on track of every time my kid says, Dad, play with me. No, I got work. I can't play with you right now. Then that shit adds up. And my kid's going to think that that's right. And I want my kid to grow up with more opportunity and better opportunity than I did. And that means giving them the opportunity to see how a fucking real dad treats their kid. You know what I mean? How to fucking actually be a fucking man. How to put my family first. Like, I value my family, so I put that shit first. Value health, so we put that shit first. You know what I mean? And to me, that is living recovery. And you can tell the motherfuckers who don't live recovery because they don't apply recovery to those areas of life. They apply recovery to their addiction when it's so much more than that, bro. It is so much more than that. So I am going to show you guys a video to bring us into the break. And then when we come back, we're going to move on into making amends, talk a little bit about that, what that's going to look like, because we haven't even gotten into the action of making amends. But this video that I'm going to show you is the power of forgiveness. So this is a guy who has every right to not forgive and chooses to forgive. Have I shown you guys these videos already? Who said that? Yep. It is the courtroom one. Are you the only one who saw it?
Yeah.
There's one that I have not shown you. So one of them you're going to see is a repeat. And then there's another one that I did not show you. So one of them is new. One of them is a repeat. I'm going to show you 2 instances where they have all the right in the world to not forgive, and they choose to forgive. And just as a witness of watching forgiveness, you're like, this is amazing. Like, I don't know how this person does this. Whoops. What the fuck? What the fuck?
Well, what's that Sam Harris joint, dude? I like that title.
Oh, dude. Yeah, this is a dope one. We're going to be getting into this like when we get into the 10th step or 11th step. This is all about meditation. And I just showed this. Dude, this video right here, yo, you have to watch. If you want to learn anything about meditation, that's the video to watch. Using meditation to focus on the Huberman Lab podcast. But this is all about how using meditation can help you unlock like the secrets to morals and values and managing emotions and shit. So you're going to be seeing that video. So I don't want to show it right now because then I won't have anything to show you when I have to show it.
We're not doing that 4-hour Huberman joint though.
No, but you should. Like, you should go fucking check that. I've listened to it. I have listened to it, and it is just, I don't know if anybody listens to the Huberman Lab podcast, but if you're going to listen to any of them, that's the one to listen to, bro.
Yeah. The dopamine ones get too.
With Anna Lembeck?
No. What's she in it?
She is. They do an episode together on addiction, and she talks all about dopamine. But they're always talking about dopamine on that podcast.
Yeah.
All right, so this is an example of forgiveness being used towards a person who, this is like a moment where you wouldn't think they have all the right to not forgive, but they choose forgiveness.
We're in Lexington, Kentucky.
Hey!
Sentencing of Trey Alexander Relford.
You guys are in Louisville.
He's pled guilty to the 2015 murder and robbery of Salahuddin Jitmood, a 22-year-old who'd been delivering pizzas. Jitmood was making his final delivery of the night when Relford and two accomplices lured him into their apartment complex, then robbed and stabbed him to death.
Do you swear